Awesome. Maybe have them text you or something. Okay. Awesome. And I'm trying to remember, I know we had some people joining late and I think Emily's with us at the beginning, right? Okay. Okay. Hooray. Yay.
Yeah, there's everybody. Okay.
I like the doorbells. It's very nice.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys?
Hi.
I was using the wrong link, so I'm sorry. I was on the other one going, where's everybody at? And then I was like, wasn't there an email that came out? Ooh.
You're doing great. Do you think we should also see if Jill wants to be the note taker today? Because I think she's bored and she's like, I need one more thing.
Exactly. I'm actually in San Francisco, to be completely transparent. So I am here.
And it's probably not appropriate for us to ask about how things are going there. Maybe you just tell us if you've had a nice time.
Well, I was here last week, and the contract I'm working on, they've been negotiating since 2019.
Great.
We were able to get 17 tentative agreements in 3 days from me being here last week.
Oh, girl.
Big props, big moves on the teams, but we didn't get economics done. So I'm flying out here for 1 day tomorrow. I'm just got here. So I'm mediating all day tomorrow, flying back to Denver on Thursday to fly to Kosovo on Friday. So I'm a crazy person.
You are a crazy person.
And I see Holly was saying she couldn't hear us. Can you hear us now, Holly? Oh.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Melanie's saying she can't get in. Let me see. I'll forward the email from Jackie.
Yeah. People could have did and gone to the original link from Q. And Robin, what's your dog's name?
Oh, you're muted.
No, it's Dobby, and he'll be going away. You just had to nudge up here.
Yeah, just say hello. I get it.
Yes. All right, Dobby. Down, down, down. Yes, down. So well behaved.
Oh, okay.
I like the cameo though. I think that should be one of our goals. No, it's awesome. Is there a way that Brian can live stream it from his computer? Oh. Okay. Okay. You can hear us now, Holly?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we got Holly taken care of, but the live stream is still funky.
And Jackie said she'll be joining us shortly, right? She was running from one meeting to the next.
Not for a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
I wonder, Jill, if we should just go ahead without.
Would it be, should we record this? And
That's what I was
people can,
thinking.
oh wait, we can't record. Never mind. I think per federal, can we record it if you're here, Emily?
Yeah, you can record it because I'm not mediating. That's the big difference. I'm facilitating your bargain for you to record as long as everybody else is okay with it being recorded. I do not care. I have a lot of folks that record and or live stream when I facilitate school districts. So if you want to try that, just so we can get the ball rolling, happy to do that.
Okay.
What do you think, Jill?
Holly, can you hear us now?
Yes, operator error.
No, it's one of those days, believe me.
I'm trying to use headphones, but it's not working, so that's a bummer.
I know, Holly, the last time I saw you, you were very, very pregnant.
Oh, wow, it's been that long.
Not long.
Yeah. He's now 9 months now.
Wow.
Yeah. How are
I'm
you
blessed.
doing?
Mhm.
And I pulled up our bargaining 2/7/22 notes. I was wondering if we want to do notes in the same place and just always have it as like a running set of notes. And if we do, someone's going to need to give edit access to whoever's going to take notes.
So I created that Google document last time.
Awesome.
I know Jackie was scribe, and I thought I had shared it and gave everyone edit capabilities. Oh, I think Karen just put it.
I just put the link in, but whoever is the owner or who has edit access needs to share it. But I put the link in there for our notes. I feel bad that Jill's doing so much, so I'm trying to be helpful.
Let me log.
Woo! Yeah.
Nice job, Jill.
Way to go. Way to keep your calm. I know, but you didn't even flinch. And I love how you were like, hold please. And we all waited quietly.
I see Jackie has access, Jill, Melanie, Polly.
Maybe it's just me.
Oh, and yeah. So I added Karen to it.
Okay. Oh yeah, now I can.
Everyone else is on here. Anyone on the internet with this link can open it. It says public on the web.
Yeah. Just want to make sure we can type on it as well. Yeah, I can type.
I can see your name on there now, Karen. I mean, I don't have access. I don't care if I don't need to, but
I can add you on here as viewer if you don't want edit capabilities.
I mean, whatever you all prefer. It looks like my little face in the corner that it's using my personal Gmail again because it's my cat's face, which is fine. I don't care. I've had that problem where it's like, is this your cat? I'm like, it pulls from my personal Gmail.
Oh, this anonymous wolf thing, or who's that? Oh,
I don't know who that is.
anonymous wolf.
Okay.
I think that might be Daphne. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I have, what did I say?
Yes. And you're open on it right now. Oh yeah. Yeah. I like your bangs. Let's try to make the live stream as entertaining as possible because it is 4:25.
Nothing.
We like Jill's bangs quite a bit.
So now that I know Jackie will be joining us as soon as she can. I reviewed the notes from last time as well, kind of going over where you guys had, what you kind of discussed on February 7th. We'll do our quick check-in as we always do. Let me know how you're doing. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, as always, let me know. I'll go with you, Polly. You're my first tile of the day. How are you doing? Do you have any questions, comments, and concerns you'd like to address with the group?
No, I think I'm ready to start moving forward.
All right. Thank you, Polly. Jill, how are you doing? thank you for all your help working on the tech stuff. I know how daunting that can be and overwhelming. So thank you for taking the challenge, the charge on that for sure. Q, how are you?
Awesome. Like Polly, like, let's go, ready to get going. So, and thank you for being here, even though you're in San Fran.
All right. I honestly got here like 7 minutes before and threw my stuff in the closet and sat down. So I'm glad it all worked out because I was worried my flight was going to get delayed again. Robin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, just doing well, plugging away at work, looking forward to getting some of these things, going, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. Holly, how are you?
Good. Yeah. Ready to get started.
And Melanie, nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm just glad I had some help getting to this meeting link because I was looking all over the place. And I don't know what happened to my calendar, but anyway, I'm here.
Hey, I just want to add too that if I stand up, like it's not because I'm bored. I have a back thing going on right now, and I sometimes have to just stand up. So
no, oh, you're muted.
I'll be moving around quite a bit.
No problem. I feel like of any group that I work with, you guys would not have a problem with that. So, and unfortunately, I have groups that would be a problem, but no, just feel free to move around. There's construction going on in the building next to me, so I may mute myself on and off as well. But thank you guys for being here. It's so nice to see all you. I know it's been a while. What I saw from the notes and kind of our agenda where we're going to be at today, tell me if this is wrong because I wasn't there. But I see that the PTO committee may have met with some updates around that. I also saw there was, these are the items we're discussing this year. Compensation, expanding the bargaining topics, and calendar and PD days. It looks like kind of the idea of how we're going to run this process is one team or one side is going to present the issue. We're going to, of course, have that open discussion where we clarify facts, figures, intent, perspectives, all of that. And then either the presenting team will develop, presenting language to present at the next session. So before I jump ahead, did you all have the ability to go through all 4 of the bargaining items last session? Are folks ready to have counters or language items been developed? And I'm sorry, I'm late to the game on that as well. Where are we at?
I can jump in.
Yeah.
We didn't get too far last time because we didn't want to get too far with you being out, Emily. I think we were going to talk about the PTO stuff this time, and I was going to present the FY23 preliminary financial forecast. And then I had some other notes in that document. I think Jackie can kind of speak on. Yeah, Jackie.
Yay, welcome.
So I know we didn't get too far on any topics, and if we had time, start a new topic today.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I'm running late to the show as always. So,
no, you're fine.
Jackie, how are you doing? Want a quick check-in from you? See how you're doing?
Sure. I'm okay. It's been a very long day. I was in Cork, so a lot, long day, and I got a meeting after this one. So I am faking it right now. It's going to be great. Was there a check-in question?
No check-in, just, any questions, comments, and concerns. Nothing, riveting today besides, unless you have your favorite restaurant in San Francisco, because I guess I'll be venturing out there tonight because
I've never been. So if you end up with a favorite restaurant, I would love to know in case I ever get to San Francisco.
I will share that with you guys next session if I find one. So that'll be great. All right. Thank you, Jackie. And Holly was just kind of giving me a quick overview of kind of where you guys ended up last session. I know the PTO committee had met or hopefully had met in between last session and now. So maybe we can start with some updates around that, see if we can reach any resolution or find any questions around it. And then Holly mentioned to me to having kind of an update or overview, around FY23 kind of financials on the district's perspective. So that's where I have us right now. If we get through that and have more time, maybe we can look at some of the other items that are being brought forward this year to start the dialogue around it. Does that work for everybody in our time? Because we have from 4:15 to whatever time zone I'm in. I'm sorry, I think till 6. Okay, got it. All right.
And I didn't mean to like bulldoze. I just grabbed the agenda from the notes that we had developed last time and I stuck it in the meeting chat. But I think that's everything you just said. I just wanted to honor that. And I'm not usually like a process person. I've been very detail oriented today. Tomorrow I'll be a mess. But do we have someone who will take notes?
Yeah, I think Jackie, you took notes last session, correct? Or you said,
I don't know if I did. I thought
Holly did.
Holly did. That's right.
Yeah.
You're muted, Holly, if you're talking to us.
oh, you're muted, Holly.
Sorry. I created the document and Jackie was scribe only because I remember.
That's right. I think it was a little more collaborative. But yes, I'm happy to take notes again if that works.
I feel like, Jackie, you might need a little break. You've been sprinting all day. I don't mind taking, it's up to you. I don't mind taking notes to give you a little breather to pet your dog.
I'm a little worried about slowing down.
Okay.
So it might be better to keep me focused by giving me the responsibility of notes.
Okay.
So I'm fine
So
with
you
that.
take notes, and if at any point you want someone to help you, I'm happy to jump in.
Thank you.
Me too. Like when I'm not presenting, I can. So
Awesome. Always take notes. Yes. Won't hear. No, sorry. Okay. All the joys of technology. All right. Well, Jackie, once again, if you need a break too, let me know. I always take my own notes. So if we miss anything, I'm always happy to review it to see if we've missed anything or want to add anything for notes. So perfect. All right. With that being said, I know the PTO committee on here, they were going to meet on Wednesdays and potentially develop some recommendations based on data that might have been collected. And if there is a recommendation being presented at next session, which could be today, who from the PTO committee would like to get us started?
I can. I'll just share the spreadsheet I had put together and the consensus we decided on to bring to this meeting. So let me share my screen 1 second. Let me pull it up. All right, so everyone can see the spreadsheet, fancy numbers.
Yes, thank you.
Lots of them. Okay. This was presented later in sessions last year about the proposal of just simply eliminating the 30 days out of the current PTO policy and then just paying that out at 25%. So the committee, this is our recommendation for us to further discuss. The data is all updated with their accruals and the para rate, since this will take an effect probably July 1, so the para rate just increases a little bit. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to try to minimize my, here we go. So basically column L here just really illustrates what the payout would be, for certified staff. If we include those 30 days, and then we'll just keep the 25% payout. And then column O just shows what our current policy is. That's kind of the side-by-side comparison there. And then this is just the number of days the PTO to be paid at the current policy. But this column L is ultimately what our recommendation is to move forward with, as far as just adding the 30 days back in. And then I just have all the costs down here, and we'd have to factor in para and Medicare for whenever we just did that additional payout. So that's what these numbers down here are. And then I also just put some other numbers in here, just kind of ballpark numbers. If 10% of teachers left at once, this would be the cost of the district, 20%, and so on. So I'm open for discussion on how we want to start there. I can go further into detail if I want, but again, we kind of went over this last sessions on prior years.
Is there, Holly, like am I missing it, what the cost of the sub would be if, so we could see the comparison or not? Is that how you came to the?
That was one of the scenarios we had done last year. I have them hidden, but that wasn't really updated. I don't want to create confusion just because I know it was because I know you guys were trying to look at the analysis of what it would cost to have a sub versus initiating this policy. And I forget what the consensus was when we had ended on that last time. But because the committee kind of vetted through that, we're like, okay, well, let's just hide it and just present this. So this is kind of just a starting point.
I mean, for me, I'm all for it because I think we did kind of decide that a substitute would be probably even more. I'm curious why you have to, because this would be when an employee leaves, you still have to pay para on that?
We do, yeah, because it's considered compensation essentially.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And then we just pay the Medicare rate at 1.45%, whatever the total amount payout is.
Was there any recommendation for capping the days? Because that was something that we had talked about, once you're at 40 days or 50 days or 60 days, that's not a concern as far as the committees?
Yeah, I presented that, but we're not recommending that this time. We were calling it the tier option. Look at year one, this is how many days you have left, and that's what you get paid at. And then whatever you have left at year two would be a different payout. And I think that's kind of what you're describing. And I brought that analysis to the committee after vetting it and talking with para. I think it would get real messy doing it that way in the reporting wise. And we felt that this would make, a well-rounded, to make everybody, and to make it more simple, not confuse para, and just make it linear across all the board for certified and across the district as a whole.
Okay. Well, thank you for your work on it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's the recommendation. I mean, that's what we were hoping for.
Great.
And I'll kind of piggyback on Polly's thinking a little bit. I remember even last spring, all of us kind of scratching our heads and saying, okay, it's we can slice and dice it in terms of subs and compare it to that. It's so hard to predict what the behavior will be. I can think through it from so many different angles. Should this be, where if we land on this and everyone's like, yeah, we like this. I'd be super curious to watch it for a year and kind of watch how it impacts people's behavior. I just think it's hard to predict that. And maybe even over a few years, right? And I think that's just something that it's a risk that we take, right? We don't know how folks will react to this, but we want to do things in good faith and make sure that folks are feeling like their time is honored and that we're incentivizing folks to be with kids. I think is kind of where I landed on it. So.
And I would agree to Polly's point about the other scenarios that we had discussed and that we talked about in the committee. Part of that was, remember, we had all those thorns last year when we talked about, well, how do we guesstimate how many subs, right, we save, sub days we save versus how many sick days we pay out. And it's so difficult to estimate that. In 3 years, we're going to have a pretty good idea of whether this policy saves or costs. Mm-hmm. And even now looking at it, it seems like a reasonable cost of payout of unused sick time to folks. to do this. And, we'll see how it goes.
And this would be for next year, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the committee's hard work on this. I don't know how we go forward, but I'm in. That's how we move forward.
Does anyone else have any questions on this at this point? Any points of clarification? How is it going to work? I think it seems like you all have a good understanding.
I don't have any questions. I don't know if this is, Emily, where you were going to take us next. Because I like the simplicity of it, to be honest, too. Oh, sorry, Jill, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay.
So I believe there was a question about like PTO that we already have. How is it transferring next year to a different calendar and a different work week? Is there anything that's changing? Do we need to outline that so that employees, like there's transparency, that going from here to there, I'm assuming that you're not going to take away their PTO, or are we still earning the same number of days, whether you're classified or certified? I know that's a little bit larger than our discussion for bargaining, but those were questions that did come up.
Yeah, good question. So, as much as we can, we're taking what we do now and we're moving it into next year. And so I would not propose we do anything with what we have in policy around PTO. We did hard work on that before. And now I think we stay status quo. Now, we may get partway into the year and I may be like, oh my God, why didn't we think of that? I don't think we can know that until we get into the year.
One thing I will say as per policy is once we figure the work year days out, we can keep the number of PTO days for each group, because now it's like from whatever up to 199 gets so many, and then 200 to 209 gets so many. I think that's going to have to be that's going to have to be corrected in the policy because it's really specific to the work years as to how many days you get. So that will have to be changed in the policy. If people aren't working 180 days.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It's going to have example, like an elementary principal works 210 days. If they're not going to work 210, we're going to need to adjust that because that's what policy says. And they earn this many days. It can stay that same, but we're going to have to match it with what the new work years are.
Yeah. Thank you. And Robin, help me remember that because that is similar to for the year-round employees, the holidays, and yes, we've got some policy changes. And yeah, I mean,
just little things like that. And it's just kind of once we get all these number of days and everything in what we're going to do solid and confirmed, I think then a lot of that will just move really quickly.
Yeah.
And this is one of the items that I see on the list of calendar and PD days, right? So if there is any changes, we just want to be cognizant that we're aware of it, that it could change the PTO accrual. That's what I'm hearing. Is that what you're describing, Robin?
No. So I'll just use the 210, day. They earn, 12 days a year or something like that. And if it's not, they're not going to work 210, whatever that's going to be, they're still going to earn that 12 days, but we're going to need to align it with their new number of days that they work. If I'm hearing that right, if Karen wants to just pick up everything and have them make the same amount of days, we're going to have to adjust it that way. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
If somebody's still gonna, so teacher earns 11 days of PTO a year. At 180 days is their work year. Mm-hmm. It's all systems thing. Mm-hmm. It's all like a systems thing. So if that, and I know we're headed into that, if our contract year is changing, and going to whatever. I don't know what it is, like 160 or whatever. I have no idea what it's
I
going to
think
be.
right now it's 169. Does that sound right, you guys? Or I've got it sitting over there.
Yeah,
I know. I'm like,
whatever it is.
I don't know. I know that.
Yeah, we're just going to have to change that. And they'll still earn, from what I'm hearing you say, is what you're hoping for is that they'll still earn for 168, 9, whatever it is, they'll still earn 11 days.
11 days.
So that won't change, Emily. It will be the number of days.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Want to make
Right.
sure we're all on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense to teacher folks on this call? Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, Jill, I think it's a valid question because really, I mean, if you call it out, right, like the percentages that folks are getting a higher percentage of PTO days in their work year, if that makes sense. I just don't feel good about saying to folks, hey, yeah, your year is now 169 days, but you're working longer during some of those days. And I know not to get into that crazy place, but we know it's going to look and sound and feel different, right? And yet we're going to now drop your PTO from 11 to 9. I feel like there's too much unknown going into next year to be able to even estimate. I feel like we just, again, as much as we can, we take, everyone's still working the same job. The time is just spread out differently. If we need to bring that back in another year and as a district come to the union and say, eek, help us figure this out, we will. I think a big part of it is based on, what do we see the behavior in terms of our people taking tons of sub days? Are they walking away with huge payouts? Like, what's the right thing to do so our employees feel valued? That's the bigger conversation.
And I think too, am I correct in that the Colorado Healthy Families and Workplace Act requires that leave be able to take hourly too? So if you're still going to be working the same number of hours, but a different number of days, it should still translate if you're working the same number of hours.
Yep. Super good point. Yeah. Maybe there's a way to slice and dice it differently. So yeah. Yep. So my recommendation is we don't even need to think right now about the number of PTO days. We're not looking to change those. We are excited about a 4-day week, and I like the recommendation from the PTO committee. I would put a caveat out there that because there's a monetary piece to it, we don't know, is it going to cost little or a lot or what have you? I don't want to completely agree to everything until we finish all of our financial items. I know compensation is a really big part. So I'm not sure how that fits into process. Like it, and let's keep going through the different items and then sign off on a whole package. I think that's what we do anyway.
Yes, I agree with Karen. Let's look at start to finish, but this is just one of the items.
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone okay with that at this point? Giving it a thumbs up, but we'll reevaluate at the end when coming to a full consensus on all the negotiation items. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions on the PTO committee, the structure that kind of Holly has been describing to us? Everyone feel good about it? I know Polly's happy with it. Anybody else? Okay. So we'll put a pin in as a tentative idea. At this point, we're going to call the PTO committee aspect of the payout regarding the 25%. And then Holly, do you want to just jump right into our fiscal year 23 financial updates from the district? Is that okay? Is that a good transition?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is the same format presented last year. I have the last year's tab and I just added FY23. This is just, as I keep stressing, this is just the preliminary data from the governor's office as of January 22. What we're looking at for the financial forecast for next fiscal year. As usual, they're predicting that we're going to lose about 20.3 pupils last year to this next year, or I guess this current year to next year, which in turn estimates to about a loss of about 209,000. With the estimated decrease of pupils, that's what this top row shows us. So they're changing up the budget stabilization factor, not much, but it's definitely a different formula than it was last year. So we're standing again to lose about 209,600 based on that new budget stabilization factor that they are formulating down there at CDE. In turn, though, they are expecting about $609 more per pupil than FY 21-22. So I just put some summary points down here since this is kind of a lot of numbers, but what's relevant to this conversation, like I just said, just estimating a loss of about 209,000. We are projected to get about 75,000 additional funds from total program, which is shown up here on row 4. In addition to 135K from the budget stabilization factor in FY 22-23. So the combo between those two is about 209,000 total revenue, but it's still less revenue than last year. So that number, basically what I'm saying, just is the total of the 75 plus 134 here between total program funding and budget stabilization. And like I already mentioned, the per pupil is expected to go up about 609. So it's all very preliminary. It's also important to note that if we do get this revenue of 209,000, it's not a lump sum. It's just paid out in a monthly payment that we get from CDE each month, starting July 1 through 6/30 of every year. That's really the highlights and what we know at this time. Are there any questions?
I have a question. But Jill, you go first.
But I'm not sure how to phrase it yet, so you go first.
I know that there's some legislation pending around returning less money to the taxpayers and putting more towards education. And I know there's some, Jackie probably is aware of this, there's some petitions that are being, like, really some big advocacy to the legislators. Holly, with the estimates that we have here, does that take into account any of that proposed legislation or just what we currently have heard kind of committed from the governor?
This would not account for any bills. This is just standard that they put out every January. Yeah.
Okay. And Jackie, is there anything that you want to add to that piece? Because that may be an important advocacy piece for us to even partner on.
I do not know. I know that CEA is working closely in partnership with aligned organizations on this issue in the community. We're trying to do it differently this year. It seems like every year we all agree that schools need more funding, and then it polls really well, and then we do the same game plan that we always do and we lose, right? So I think that we have not necessarily signed on to any specific proposals in terms of a long-term funding fix like we would see at the ballot box or something like that in the midterms or perhaps the next cycle. When we do, you will hear about that from me because I'm, all about funding schools properly. And then in terms of continued advocacy at the legislature, that is happening constantly. I think that the governor's budget is significantly less than we expect to actually receive in school funding from CEA and what we've been hearing from our lobbyists. We're hoping for a 2-year buy down to 0.
Yes,
right. And so we're pretty confident that that's possible. And so, yeah, I think it is super early to be looking at this, and the governor's budget even I think has a lot has happened since then. And so, and then I know the legislature also allocated more money this year, right? There was an additional amount that was awarded to school districts this year. And so it does seem a little early to have any serious conversations about compensation because so much is still up in the air. But yeah, you will absolutely hear from me as we take positions on things, and if there are ways that we can work together to push for more school funding.
Awesome, thank you. And we've got our volunteer lobbyist, Autumn, who will keep us up to date. I'll put that on her radar. She's pretty good.
We're going to be doing, in-person lobby days, I think, again soon.
Ooh.
And so, so if we wanted to have a day where perhaps it's, a work day in the district or something like that, or over spring break, if folks are willing to do so, where we could have administrators and teachers from the district go together and have a lobby day, we could absolutely make that happen.
Yeah, so like to Jackie's point, this is all obviously so preliminary, but it's what we know now. And I know this is where we started last year. So it's ever evolving day after day.
Okay, so I'm just trying to put it together in my head. Please bear with me. So the 75,000, the 134,000, you added those together to the green shaded box. It's 209.6, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And that, is that the cost of the difference in per pupil funding? That's not, right?
Nope, it's just the incoming revenue that we're expected to see based on the portion of total program and then the budget stabilization. It's like a formula that they derive based on what comes back to you.
Okay, so that's up in revenue, but then the per pupil difference is almost the exact same amount down. Am I seeing that?
Well, so like, I think I'm understanding your question. So per pupil is actually like included in the total program. It's like a component of it.
Okay, I just see the number 2092 and then the 2096, and they're so similar that I was getting them confused.
I know, yeah, it's confusing. So basically, they're kind of two separate pieces. So we're standing to lose 209,000 with the estimated per pupil drop. Separate from that, we are going to get, they're predicting 209,000 of revenue.
Okay.
I was kind of trying to break it up to see, like, people see, oh, it's a loss. Well, what's that loss? And then, okay, but then this is what we're still projecting to get aside from that.
Okay, can you scroll down to the bottom numbers again for me? Okay. Then you said that there was an increase in the per pupil funding of 609.
Yeah.
Is that factored into the 2092 number that we're dropping?
It is. So
okay.
To see the property tax, specific ownership, TAP, and state share, sorry, these three total, 209,000.
But the per pupil, I guess I'm not the 2096, but the 2092 for the drop in per pupil. How does the increase in per pupil funding play into the total drop that we're seeing? Does that make sense?
I don't have that broken out. It's just essentially saying that we're going to get per pupil revenue. So while we're seeing a decrease of the 209,300, the increase in per pupil is still factored in this 209,600.
Okay.
So it's not in addition to.
Okay.
How many? Oh, sorry.
You're good. It's a bit confusing because, like I said, it's two 209 numbers, but they mean two different things.
Right.
How many students then are factored into that 209?
666.7.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. What?
So
On the column B,
That's not the total. Oh,
so column B is showing actual FY 21-22. Column C is what they're projecting, and they're just telling you the difference, what we can see between last year or this current year and next year.
So I'm confused because it looks to me the actual 21-22 is the 6.6 million. And then estimated total program budget is 6.8 million. That's still...
It's taking the difference of everything of what occurred this year and what they're projecting next year. So this is just simply a difference column of where we are currently to what they're projecting this next fiscal year.
Right. So isn't that an increase? Like our total program budget is going to increase by $200,000?
We're increasing, but it's still less revenue than what we got this current year. So if we look at FY22 tab, see how what our revenue was projected last year? It was 309.
Oh, so we're saying we're getting a smaller increase in revenue this year than we got last year.
Correct. That was a simple way to put it, yes.
Okay, so we are still getting more money than we got last year overall, but we are getting a less big increase from the state than we got last year.
We're getting less revenue this next year than what we got last year. See how they're last year they projected 309?
Right. But are still we are going to have more revenue overall than we did last year. We're just seeing a smaller increase than we saw last year.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm gonna, the 6 million is the, I'm like Jill, I'm trying to formulate it. The 6 million is our overall, here's our total program. It's a combination of what we get from the state and our local property taxes, right? I'm looking to Holly to nod. Okay,
yes.
So, and okay. I just had to say that out loud. I don't know that gives us any more clarity, but.
Yeah, I think last year too, it's a mixture of total program as it shows here, budget stabilization, SOT, property taxes per pupil, all of it. Yep, it's a very nasty formula.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Or it's a little bit confusing to wrap your head around. I tried to keep the same format as last year so you guys can kind of recollect, oh, that's right. But it's we're projecting a loss, but we're still projecting some revenue. Yeah. And I also have some additional talking points for revenue outside of this bucket. And we're ready for that conversation.
So what was the projected revenue last year compared to the actuals of 21-22?
309,839 is what they were projecting for additional revenue from last year.
So can you please go back to FY23? So what it looks like is last year, what we estimated was still almost $200,000 less than the actual.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we have reason to believe that there's potential again that the estimated this year will be less than the actual.
Correct. But it's all very preliminary.
Right, of course.
And it's true. We're probably going to have, less per pupils because we are a decline district. We'll see. It's the unknowns.
I have heard that most districts in Colorado are declining at this point. Have you heard anything similar, Holly?
I have not, but there's so many different variables that it makes sense. But
I've heard that from superintendents, with a few exceptions where there's a lot of growth on the western slope and what have you, and up north. But I hear that same thing, and I keep wanting to change that narrative.
We are doing things that could change that narrative. I'm getting a new student on Monday.
Yay! Awesome.
Does anybody else have any questions on what Holly has presented so far before I turn her loose to give us more updates on other finances that are going to be brought in?
I have one super fast question, so I just thought of it. Holly, are we still on a 5-year average for our student count?
We are, but the good year dropped off last year.
Okay. Thank you.
When I say good year, I mean we had 800 per pupil.
I know. I like that nice,
high number. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So then this next document is just talking points for additional revenue. outside of the general fund components. I assume we'll get to this topic and we'll, dig deeper, but I just wanted to, put out there that the fund reserve balance, I know, again, we had talked about that last year, and these are just really talking points I want us to remind us of. One-time cost only. We're a small district, so our reserves are like higher than typical districts. So it's really not a good comparison to compare us to other quote unquote larger districts. Our reserve has not been spent down in 3 years, largely due to COVID and the unknowns with state and grant funding. So we kind of wanted to have that there as kind of like a rainy day fund. It's currently sitting at 86%, and current BOE policy is 18%. As you all know, we all rely heavily on property tax. Only comes in during the spring months. So because of this, we have to prepare for cash shortfalls for the district to property taxes coming in to cover things, big costs like payroll, mainly from October through December, January. We are starting to have preliminary topics with the board on how we're going to, start doing the spend downs for the fund reserves. That's going to be a topic of discussion at the Thursday work session. They have all the information as far as comparison of districts, kind of comparative BOE policies, what their rates are, etc. for pupils, heavy on property tax collections. So then just some other topics I wanted to add. We will be receiving, one more year of small rural funds. It's about $220,000. And we never depend on Fred Forest funds. I don't ever factor that in the budget because we don't know if we're going to get it. And that's kind of just the other main talking points I wanted to bring into the conversation because I think they're all good, strong funding sources. And we can work from these topics going forward based on what we know now.
Are those small rural funds something that we've had consistent? It sounds like it's just one last year, or is it something?
It was a 3-year bill last year, this year, and next year. It's it has specific things. It's mostly like we use it for capital construction, expanding pre-K and kindergarten rooms. Most of it's been going
used for kindergarten too, because the bond can't be. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. No, that's great.
Yeah.
And then the third bullet, reserve has not been spent down in the last 3 years due to those things. But were we spending the reserve down prior to that?
No, not like a consistent plan. I think it's just been sitting there. I look at like the last 3 years. I didn't dig deeper, but the odds are probably not.
Text our businessman. I'm just kidding. I'm going to keep my text bubbles right here. But I did want to elevate. I'm going to put a plug in for the board meeting. I know most folks will be working during that time, but remember our board meetings are recorded. And it won't be the only time we're talking about it. I'm missing a couple board members on Thursday, but I'll have 3 of them there. We started talking about it at the last business meeting. And we've been prepping them up for a couple months. I've put it in weekly update. You guys have heard us talk about it. We have to really I've guided the board. We need to do 2 things with some heavy guidance from Holly, who's done amazing research, like she said, around what is a district our size with our composition of property tax dependency and state share dependency. What is a typical size of those reserves? What does she recommend? So those are hard conversations. Work session or study session this Thursday, that's on the agenda. And then we don't have it on the March 15th business meeting because we're chock full with things, but we'll have to bring it back again in April so we can have some decisions from the board. And the two things that we need to really make a decision on: one, what's the kind of that right size of reserve so we can align our policy with practice? Doesn't have to be perfect, but what's that desired size? And then what are the priorities for the spend down? Holly knows I get really excited about that because I really like to spend dollars. And she's very good at reminding me they are really one-time funds, which is almost like, it feels almost in conflict with what we listen to and we see when we look at history, right? We've consistently had a pretty good reserve. And I think each year we talk about, we wring our hands, we're going to have to dip into our reserves. At least the 3 years I've been here, and I get really stressed. And then lo and behold, something happens. Like we get forest funds we didn't expect, or ESSER dollars. But I can't look you guys in the eye and say, again, we're going to spend down reserves, because the last 3 years we haven't. So we need a spend down plan acknowledging that they're one-time funds, even though we've had them for a number of years in a row, if that makes sense. And we need to have a policy that aligns with our practice. So,
yeah, and if you guys are interested, I can show you the spreadsheet I put together for the board. They're reviewing it now. Offline and share it. Okay.
Yeah. And transparently, I want to make sure that we're having these conversations in public so it doesn't feel weird or wonky, because at some point we're going to be talking about compensation and what makes sense and what can we afford and what can we do and how do we navigate that. And so let's share all the information out there and let's try to make great decisions together. Because I've also heard, our leaders here say, the educational leaders on the call right now, we don't want to put the district at risk. We want to be able to pay everyone and, have awesomeness. So let's do this with, caution, but let's also be really transparent about what the dollars look like.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that we were heartened to hear that there is going to be a spend down plan for the reserves, because those are very high. Even for a district of this size, it's very high. And, I think that it's good to see that the district has been smart in the ways that they over budget and underspend, right? And have been able to grow that reserve over time. I think it's difficult for the educators in the district to see how other districts are progressing in terms of compensation. And it's felt like Clear Creek has been left behind while the reserves continue to grow. So, I think this is going to be important to not just look at the forecast, but also look at previous budgets and previous audits and, how things have been going in the district and how we should be talking about compensation this year. But we are very glad for a spend down plan, because it was good to see that there's money in reserves, but it would be also nice to see money in teachers' pockets.
I agree. Well, and I would say I know when you say teachers, you mean everyone, but across the district, right? Like when we think of our drivers and our secretaries and everyone, and I know we all have that in our hearts and souls. Absolutely. Sometimes I joke, I'm like, I should be on the other side of the table. And I know I've got a responsibility to do it well and to do it with caution towards the future. And I'm not just saying that's not a political stand or anything or grandstanding around compensation. That's really how I think about it. Like, absolutely, I will always look for what's the most that we can do in terms of compensation, because educators are underfunded across the state. But I agree, you guys, we've got some hard work to do. I can't look in the eye and say otherwise. I just want to make sure we're doing it in a smart way that doesn't put us at risk even into the future. And I don't want to freak, especially people out who are listening, but I have no filter, so I'll say it anyway. So as we're working on the spend down plan and we're thinking about the reserves, they're one-time funds, but could we think about that? I mean, technically, should you use those for compensation? No. However, could we put that into the mix? And I'm making Holly nervous now, probably. And then also think about in the future, gosh, if we don't grow enrollment over time, we have to get skinnier. Like every year I say that out loud, and I don't ever want to freak people out, but that's our reality, right? Especially if we make some hard decisions this year and and I'm proud of the compensation increases our board has done in the past, but I still want to just we all want that. We all want to keep pushing, right? So then that if we, a year down, 2 years down, 3 years down, and if we're continuing to decline in enrollment and we're spending those reserves down because they're a finite number of dollars, and if they're not getting replenished because our enrollment's going down, we'll have to get skinnier. I want to put that out there just so I'm really transparent with people.
Yeah, and I think too, even with declining enrollment, what we're seeing is the overall budget, thankfully, has continued to increase, right? And that's been good. And also, we bargain every year for a reason because things look different every year, right?
Yep.
And we make the best possible decisions with the information that we have. These are never, ever, ever easy. It would be great if we just funded education in the state the way that we are supposed to.
Right.
And the best thing that we can do is lock arms and go yell at the Capitol. I'm
there.
Q, for the Thursday work session, which board members are going to be there?
We'll have Kelly, Jessica, and Erica. Larry and Sandy will not be there. And again, it's all recorded so people could watch that. And we're not going to walk away from Thursday's conversation around, and here's what we should do. Holly's been really great about, again, providing with information. We've kind of been stepping them there little by little, like in the weekly update over and over again. Then Holly's gathered the research and providing that to the board. We have talked about the fact that we have to talk about it, and we've given them those numbers and said them out loud. And now the study session Thursday is, okay, now let's have some conversation around. Let's get messy with it. Let's have some conversation. But they won't, I don't anticipate that they're not going to commit to anything, especially without all five being there. Won't get to it at the business meeting on Tuesday, and then we'll have to bring it up in April again.
Sure, that makes sense. But you are expecting to have some conversation about potential spend down, just kind of looking at the numbers and maybe toss out some percentages that you're comfortable with. I know that you had mentioned at the last board meeting that you guys need to figure out what percentage is a comfortable percentage to have in reserves and then plan the spend down from there.
Yeah, exactly. And so if Holly shares it with you guys, what you'll see is what the board's been looking at already, comparison districts and what percentage are they at. And then I asked her to put into that, what's the composition of, or what's the percentage of state share and local share? Because that's something you have to think about. There's two things that our auditors really pushed us to think about around the reserves and the spend down plan. They said, okay, when you're small, which we are, you guys have heard me say this, when you're small, you typically want to have higher than, like we need more reserves than Jeffco does, but Jackie's spot on. We're high even for a small district. So small district typically keeps your reserves a little bit higher so you can survive a crisis or what have you and be able to pay people if something goes awry. And then if you have a heavier dependence on property taxes, you'll typically have a bit of a higher reserves. And with that said, that's why you'll see those two things in the data that Holly has gathered, because we're trying to compare ourselves to districts that have a similar composition.
Yeah, and I put ones out there too. I hid the columns because they were good districts to compare to, but none of them had their audits posted. So I thought, nope, let's keep them out of the mix as well. So the top 6 or 7 you'll see that I'll share has really good information.
Folks have any other questions on anything that Holly has presented? And thank you so much for giving us that overview. I know that, of course, these are preliminary numbers. Things change daily. We're only in March. Who knows what will happen down the line, but thank you for doing that.
Yep.
But any other questions, thoughts? All right. With that being said, I know I'm jumping in because I missed last session.
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was finding my mouse and then I remembered I could touch my screen. when do we find out? Like, I know property values are assessed every odd year, right? And so I should know this because I live in Clear Creek. But
I know it. Holly would know.
I think they're every year. I think they have to for the year following. I think they come out like in May or June.
That's got to be a jump because things have really soared in Colorado, right? Like,
so I see what your question is. So real estate's going up, right? So at some point taxes will go up. I could be wrong on this. I feel like I've heard other soups who are really into the whole financial perspective say it's either 1 or 2 years out when it's really going to hit our taxpayers. And then I could be wrong on this. Holly, help me out with this. I think what that means is, wouldn't we get a higher percentage of our funds from local share and less from the state? If I'm thinking like Aspen, for example, where they've got really high property values, doesn't the percentage change? But we don't get like those extra tax dollars, even though we should. That would be lovely.
Yeah, because it's based on your override amount. We can only get so much at the override. I think we're at 20-something mils. But I can get you more information. I feel like I don't have enough to adequately respond to that.
Okay, yeah, that would be
Good question.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions on financial stuff? We'll get some additional information around property taxes, how that all works. I'm not an expert, that's for sure.
I just want to thank Holly for entertaining all of the emails I've sent her asking her for different things in different ways. So thank you, Holly, for accommodating.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right. Anything else on this topic? One more time. All right. So the other items that I saw you all had brought to the table in the first session that I wasn't there, apologies once again. I wasn't going to cancel on you this time. I made sure, so I flew in earlier. I know we had compensation, of course, which may be a topic maybe further down the line once we have more numbers, facts, figures, all that good stuff. We also have expanding bargaining topics I wrote down, and then the calendar and PD days. Any of those items we'd like to start talking about today? I thought you were raising your hand, but I realized it was your dog's tail, Jackie.
Let's see. I just blanked. What was the first one you said, Emily?
We have compensation, expanding bargaining topics, and then and PD days is what I saw from the notes that Jackie took last time.
So expanding bargaining topics won't come into play unless the board approves the expansion. And I think, Q, that they might give an answer on Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure about that.
She just put BRB, by the way. She popped up real quick. So
it's got the two screens, so I can't keep track. So there's that. That would come into play if that's approved. But there was also, Q had told us last time if there was anything else that came up that she would like to get a heads up on that, and we can go ahead and put it on the list. And I think it was, Polly, you can help me with this. Something about like extra duty pay? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I mean, I think it falls under compensation.
Okay.
But our district is asking a lot of extra, we're doing a lot. We're changing curriculum. We're moving forward in a new direction, at least at King Murphy right now. And, I'm hopeful that there's going to be trainings and things like that this summer that are opportunities for educators that go along with that. Anyway, our extra duty pay has not been addressed or changed in, I think, at least 12 years. And currently it's about the rate of that Wendy's offers at $20 an hour for class or certified people. So I think we'd like to take a look at that too, to see, I know it falls under compensation, but to let everybody know like where we're looking. And it's really kind of hard to find comparisons. And those things are not stated on, I can go and find, salaries and for classified and certified, but the extra duty pay is just out there. But we'd like to discuss that.
So
Go ahead, Robin.
So the extra duty pay was increased last year? Holly, did we do it or Q, did we do it last year? We increased it by $3 an hour.
It's 23 now. Okay, it's 23
now. Yeah.
I still think we want to look at that.
Would that be something we'd add under compensation, you guys?
Yes, I think so. But I wanted you to know or to be aware that was something in addition to, steps and lanes and whatnot that we'd like to look at.
Yeah, I think it was either last year or the year before that we upped it. I can't remember because they kind of blend together.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there more dialogue we want to have around potential extra duties? Does everyone understand it? How would we? I don't want to cut off your thought, Polly. So feel free to add more dialogue if needed. Just making sure the district understands kind of where you're coming from. If you haven't already had this conversation.
No, I don't think we're planning to change what extra duty pay. What falls under it. Generally, it's when educators are, work on a week or are asked to go to a PD or something on a weekend or during the summer or have the opportunity to work on something during the summer. I just foresee that. I know Q has talked a little bit about possibly creating those learning experiences for educators this summer since we are moving in so many new directions. And I think a lot of educators would welcome it. With those opportunities. So, and hope to be compensated, as best as they can be.
Yeah, you're spot on, and we're fortunate right now in that we've got some ESSER dollars that I think will help support that. But yeah, I as we're talking about unpacking the expeditionary learning modules and knowing that will take more time than we've got, right? And I think of it from two perspectives. I think of it from what makes sense to do over the summer, right? Whether it's unpacking EL modules or it's taking some really interesting professional learning coursework around crew or advisory. Like I'm thinking pre-K-12. We absolutely want to make sure we're compensating people for that out of contract time, and happy to add that to the list of things, the actual hourly pay for what that looks like. It would be amazing to get some comparisons from other districts. That'd be super. And I don't know how we do that either, except maybe we're just calling or emailing folks. I don't know if you guys have contacts through unions, find out what it is. I also wouldn't mind knowing. Robin, you unmuted. What were you going to say?
Well, it's has to do with what you're talking about. I don't know if that's something that we just got that study from. I can't remember his name. He does a study of all the. I know he does benefits, and I wonder if extra duty pay is included in that. So we can take a look and see. So at least it would be one thing to investigate.
I think on our end, we can definitely call Gilpin, and I know Jill has some Gilpin, and you probably know the extra duty pay in Jeffco, but I can call there.
I'm hoping it's changed since I've been there.
Anyway, we can stoop around as much as we can and see if we can't come up with some numbers.
Yep. And then something that I'm not advocating to put this in the CBA. It's more, I think it'll come up as we're talking about this. So I want to say it out loud. So we've got the hourly extra duty pay, right? We have hourly, which is at 23 right now an hour. And then there are some times that we do per diem, which always makes me a little bit twitchy because they're different amounts for the same things that people are doing. And Robin's really good at helping us think through when one might be more beneficial than the other. And then I think we've even done it like when we were talking about doing the Luke Foley professional learning through the year, which we ended up not doing through the year. We were even talking about like flat rates, which makes me think about stipends. And I'm not advocating to put stipends into the CBA. In fact, you guys know me, I hate talking about stipends because I feel like there's a stipend out there for everything. And it's deserved because it's hard work. But I just want to put it out there that there's more tools that we have at our fingertips to use to compensate folks. I just would like to see whatever it is. I just would like to see consistency between like, why is the per diem and where does that figure come from? Because it doesn't even calculate into like an hourly, and then it gets, because these are how things fall through the payroll. And then I get the phone calls that, I wasn't paid right or whatever. So I just, some consistency and some clarity. Yep. That, and not, I just would just, gosh, please, not confusing, like simply streamlined. Nice. Just not like a million different kinds of ways to pay people. Yeah, it makes it really difficult to keep track of and making sure you're paying the right people the right way. And then answering those questions when they call and say, how come, so-and-so's this and I'm this. So I just consistency, streamlined, logical, me. Did you just say streamlined and logical?
Yes, streamlined and logical, of which I am not logical sometimes, but I just like processes that are logical, consistent, and streamlined.
Yes. We aspire to be sequential in mind and organized.
I don't know if that's in our realm, to go through all those different pay areas.
It's not. You're spot, and that's why I was like, I know it's not in the CBA. I'm not advocating to put it in the CBA. I think, Robin, for you and I, which will be really, really helpful, if we talk about what's the right amount for the hourly rate,
and then we can expand on that.
Yep,
exactly.
Yep. You and I can get more clarity around that. I know. I feel like we just made Jackie tired. She just had this look like, I don't want to talk about stipends. I don't want to talk about per diem.
I was already tired. The mask just slipped. So I'm back. I'm faking it again.
Okay. Doesn't matter. We're all doing our best, guys. We're doing our best. All right. Any other conversations around stipends, extra pay, anything else just for clarification purposes at this point? All right. We're just going to have that as something we may come back to at some point, knowing that we have certain aspects in our bargaining agenda that we're going to go over. But no, this could be something that's brought into our compensation conversation when we have that. With that being said, I know we started talking about, Jill, you'd mentioned the expanding bargaining topics. I think you had a question for Q. I think it was right when she popped away. Do we want to follow up on that? Okay.
I can restate. I just had mentioned that we can't bargain for those until the board approves them, if that's their intent. And that I was hoping that maybe they were going to make a decision on Tuesday, but I don't really understand the process of that. So I didn't know if you had anything.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So I gave you guys a info on this too. So we'll do the exec session with the board right before the study session on Thursday. And I think that's going to start right at 11:30, and then we'll start the study session at 12 if anyone's bored and they want to watch the study session. We'll start, you always start out in public for the exec session, and then they have to read the motion to go into exec session for the purpose of topics related to negotiations, blah, 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 whatever that language is. But I only have 3 board members there. So between now and then, I'm also trying to get a sense of where folks at with it. I don't know, you guys. They'll talk about it in exec session, but any decisions need to be made in public. Like they don't make decisions in an exec session. They can receive legal advice. They can talk about kind of their stance. And I hope I'm saying this correctly. Jackie or Emily, pipe in if I say anything that's really off. And then they'll need to talk about it at the business meeting, which that would be Tuesday night. I think you guys are on right now to give an update. I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to speak to that again. I mean, I'll just be blunt. I may have a sense of what they're thinking after Thursday, but I won't know for sure until Tuesday. The other thing that I will say out loud, I don't know where the board's going to go on this. You guys have heard me say before, typically management, I represent management. Great. We don't look to expand the scope of the CBA, right? But at the same time, we want to be good. We want to be really great and honor the work of our employees. So you guys know our board members, they have diverse opinions. I'm not sure where they'll go. No matter what, I am absolutely committed as we're moving into this different reality of our 4-day school week, to make sure that whether it's part of the CBA or it's a separate collaborative process, we're not making decisions in isolation. This is probably too much information, but I spent almost a full weekend day this last weekend just messing with times and messing with like, if the bell time were this, and I looked at 27J's CBA and I actually was pulling language from there and was starting to I created a Google Doc and I said, okay, if these things were true, like, 200 minutes for planning and what have you. I shared that with principals today. I probably freaked them all out because it's so like out of process. It's not in negotiations. It's not in a collaborative committee structure. That was just to begin to wrap my head around it. I would never take that and then hand it to folks and say, here we go. Kind of like the scheduling that we've done, it needs to have multiple iterations and multiple eyes on it. Again, whether it's part of negotiations or it's out of negotiations, I need people, including anyone who's willing to help me. I'm looking at people on this call to look at that and say, that's a great idea. That's a terrible idea. That'll work. That won't work. My anxiety is that I think it's your anxiety too. It's a new reality next year. And on one hand, I'm like, oh my God, we've worked our tails off to get a 4-day school week, right? Like that is a heavy, heavy, heavy lift. Thank goodness for Andrew Wolf and Daisha Kelly and Becky Dancer and Mitch Houston, who have really made this possible. Heavy lift. So part of me wants to sit back and go, whew, it's going to be fine. Like no one complain about time because we got plenty of time next year. And at the same time, Jill, when you brought it to me and you're like, eek, we want to make sure we've got planning time during the day and we're not like shortening that and we're not going home at the end of the night exhausted. I was like, oh, she's spot on, right? Even with a Friday that we're not working or a Friday that we're doing PD, we still need to make sure the flow of the workday makes sense. So just know that I completely acknowledge that again, whether it's part of this conversation or it's separate. Help me figure this out. I don't intend to be directive in any sense. So, and if you guys really want Polly and Jill and Melanie, I'm more than happy to sit down with you and show you this doc that I started working on. As long as you don't yell at me or hit me or say this is terrible, because it's just a starting point. I need help. We need help.
Is that what you shared with principals today?
Mm-hmm.
Because Chris had said that he was going to meet with you today about that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was a super bad superintendent. I hope my board members are on this. They can just hear me say this. They can fire me tomorrow. Terrible superintendent. We did our leadership meeting. We didn't get to that part, and I handed it out at the very end, and they're all shared on it electronically. And I said, we don't have time to talk about it, but here it is. So it does give me anxiety because I want to make sure it feels good to our educators. There is no reason to go to a 4-day week if it stresses everyone out, right?
Right.
But it's hard to wrap your head around. So sorry, that was a lot of yammering.
No, I appreciate hearing you reflect our concerns as educators.
Yep.
Because putting us in front of kids more is good, but giving us less time to prepare for it doesn't necessarily make it a good thing.
Right.
So,
Right. So, and so, and I'd be happy to do this, Polly, Joe, Melanie, if you guys want to sit down with me, even like Friday, for example, even before we know where the board's going to go, I know I'm booked until Friday. I'll walk through it and you guys can go, this doesn't make sense. This makes sense. It made me feel better to start attaching some numbers to things like, does everyone have plenty, a duty-free lunch, right? Like, I know that's important. Poor Emily's probably like, they're just like taking over here. There's no structure to this whatsoever. Does everyone get, in 27J's CBA, I think it said 200 minutes of self-directed planning time during the student day? Can we make that happen? And then what does the time outside of the school day look like? And do we have time to pull people together? I've heard from, I think you guys on this call too, in a staff meeting. And what does that look like on a weekly basis? And how do you think about that on a non-Friday work day and then on a Friday work day? And how do we set the work hours around that? I know it sounds like I'm totally jumping, but I just had to sit there and play with it. And it felt okay, but you might look at it and go, there's no way we have to.
That might be valuable. I need to think about that and look at my crazy schedule right now.
Yeah.
And then get back to you.
Okay.
I know I can't do Friday, but I could do another day, or I could do Friday morning too. I just can't. I have something right after school.
That's okay. Yeah, and I'm scared to share it with you without me sitting next to you, so you can either tell me I'm a complete idiot and doesn't make any sense, or we can. It's like the other one, right? Like, my anxiety is folks are going to see something and say, "Oh, that's written in stone." It's absolutely not. It's got to work for people.
Okay.
I just needed a starting place to have some assurance that there would be enough time. I actually think we're going to end up with more planning and collaboration time, whether it's individual self-directed or it's working together in groups, I think.
Can I'm pretty sure I know your answer to this, but I think you saying it out loud might be helpful.
Sure.
I have heard from some staff concerns that other staff think that our Fridays, the ones that we're not contracted to work, are good days for us to work. And you have never been a proponent of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm saying it like that because I messed with those days, and I messed with, I was trying to compare what are the hours that we work this year in our 5-day school week. What are the hours that it looks like we'll work, like total hours, right? Like in board policy, I think it says 180 days and 1,500 and change hours, right? So the only reason I'm saying it like that is because right now, how the calendar and the schedules are written, I'm not worried about the days because of course those will go down, but the number of hours would go down that we're working. That we have to pay attention to. We really need to be working the same, doesn't have to be on site, but we need to be working the same number of hours, right? Otherwise the board could say, well, you're working fewer hours, we're going to pay you less, which I would never be okay with. We need to pay you more. So there's one Friday a month. Then there are conferences, which right now we tag to a Friday, but I think it could be that you, as a building, you schedule the conferences whenever you want. If it needs to be that Friday because y'all got to be in the building at the same time or whatever, awesome. If not, that's your earned comp day. So you're paid for that day. And then there could be other times for collaboration. Either it's paid through ESSER funds, or if we're lacking in those hours, we either have to think about hours differently during the 4 days, or do we say, all right, you can work remotely, but you have to demonstrate a work product to get to those hours for the other Fridays. Like I heard Polly say at one point, which I love, she's like, I know I'm going to be at home working on stuff, but I wouldn't mind being paid for those or honored for those, right? So that's just what I need to work out with you guys. And it sounds like I'm not trying to do it right now. And I'm not trying to say it's going to be part of bargaining or not, because I don't know yet. I just want to work on it so our employees are not stressed. Okay. Like I want to lock y'all in a room and say, all right, take a look at this. What do you think? But
I absolutely agree. I think just even between job categories, between different buildings, just traditions and how things have been done. Like I would never, like for me, I'm being very quiet right now because like we just need teachers. We just need educators to talk because this is incredibly complicated. And to do it well right away, I think is a huge challenge. And I think we can work on that together. So I'm excited that it's going to be collaborative no matter what. I hope we get to work on it here because I'm really curious.
Yep. So I feel like I should mute myself.
No, Q, you're doing fine. And know that, you make your comment of you're running pretty well. It's more important for you all to talk through these issues. I don't insert myself or give you a structure unless you all need it. It's more important for you to understand kind of these dynamics that are kind of maybe inside bargaining, outside bargaining. It's how you're structuring your school district so you all understand it. So no, if the need for more structure, let me know. If this is how it works, more power to us, right? I think you guys have always been very collaborative, especially the group that is here. And I want to keep that going the best way that we can. So I don't need to insert myself unless needed. So just that. Any more topics on kind of this idea? I know things are still, of course, up in the air. Any other touch-ons regarding expanding bargaining topics? I think we're okay. Things are still out there at this point. Just being cognizant of the time, do we want to start a conversation around calendar or PD days? Is there a structure around that? Is there going to be a subcommittee that looks at it? I think we did that last year, didn't we?
What do we mean by calendar and PD days?
That's what I saw from Jackie's notes. So let me see. Her exact words were calendar and PD days with 4-day week.
Yeah. So what I remember us talking about last time was because we, in the CBA already is the calendar, the year we bargain. And so we would have to discuss that this year, right? Sure. The question is just whether we are also going to discuss what the days look like.
So I hope we're not too out of process here. And Jill and Polly, feel free to jump in, and Robin and Holly and Melanie, because we're switching to a 4-day week. We've been iterating different versions of calendar, and the board has seen a couple different. They've not approved it yet. It's run through. We had a calendar committee that met that had high school and middle school representation. I'm trying to remember if we had elementary representation or not. I'd have to go back and look at who was there. That's where we did a lot of the hard mucky work. We had classified representation there too. So we have 2 draft calendars that we've put out with the 4-day week, and then the work days. The work days are actually very movable. It was more so that our families would know, here's a start date, here's the end date. And the work days, which I think would be the PD days, they can go on any Friday. So, and I'm trying to wrap my head around, so what makes sense to do here? And again, really hoping that I haven't run a process to get the calendar going that feels awkward for this group. Had a lot of feedback from our families and educators. They're like, we need to know what the calendar is going to look like. But I also feel like we've been super collaborative with that, with tons of input.
Maybe for our next session, what it would be like to get this group caught up to speed on what's already been done. Yeah. And then where we plug in, that can be the meat of our conversation.
Sure.
Because I don't want to undo good work that's been done. And, it might come to this committee and we're like, yep, that looks great. Or like we have a clear preference, but we might have some, input, but we don't want to undo good work if there's good work that's been done, of course. Yeah. So maybe that's where we start next time, is what's already been done and then what still needs to be done and how we can do it.
Yep. Yeah, we totally can. I was really couching my thinking in board policy. Actually, now I'm thinking about EEC. Do we need to do anything there? So board policy around calendar, which is we have to put it out to the community for input. We have to get it to the board no later than April 15th to approve. With a 4-day week, we have to get it to CDE for approval before May 11th. I think those were my I got to make sure I do those things. And then, yeah, I like your idea, Jackie. So when we meet again, I'll bring forward those calendars. I had prepped up the board to approve one of the two versions on the meeting on Tuesday in March. I have to make sure we're not past the April 15th deadline. We can pause that and we can do that in April, or they could approve it and then we could, if there's any changes we could bring it to them, or I could have them approve it with knowledge that the work days could change. Really what the driver is our parents want to know what's the start date, what's the end date, when's winter break, when's spring break. So help me think through that, you guys. I'm kind of open to whatever.
I mean, I would be worried, as you know, it's in the CBA, is the subject that we have to bargain.
Right.
That if the board approved it first, it wouldn't. Right. I don't want this just to be a rubber stamp on work that's already been done.
Totally
I think we'll have good conversation about it before the board approves it.
Yeah. When's our next meeting, you guys?
I have April.
Looking at that, I think it's March 28th.
Oh,
I think you guys are doing one without me.
Oh, could be. And then
I wrote down April 11th, but I could be wrong. I have March 28th, yeah. But
I think
Emily wasn't available any days in March until recently for today. But we had held all of them on the calendar, which I think is what is confusing people.
Oh.
You know what we could do, you guys? I'm tired. I'm sorry. I'm thinking through it out loud. I can pull it off the March 15th agenda. I think I could tack on a special session to the April work session, which comes before April 15th, and get it approved there. Again, so help me think about this. In the CBA, it's not like the CBA doesn't determine start date and end date to school, right? How's it framed in the CBA? That's what I need. I'm sorry.
it's a good question. We should pull that up.
And again, because I feel pressure to get that out to families and for Robin for HR stuff. And I don't think anyone here is looking to undo that. I feel like, again, we've done that really collaboratively and we've put tons of input out there. What are the actual items that we need to talk about as part of the CBA? That's what I need.
Trying to find it now in all of my.
Okay. I know I've got it somewhere too.
I can't help you because I can't open any other tabs if the live stream on YouTube is going to keep functioning.
I guess where it is affects HR is that so I'm starting to I'm not sure, because I don't know how other districts have done this, not having this information when they're staffing. So as I'm posting jobs with, work years and salaries, nothing, that can always be, I always talk to them about that, that there could be some changes and stuff. But work years, and especially, once we hire contracts and, so calendars. And then also, it'd be nice. I'm totally looking forward to the calendar because payroll system is built around the calendar. So as we roll, and that's one of the first things we do when on my end, Holly has her kind of little stuff that she does. And then my little stuff starts with a calendar. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's really kind of, all those things really affect me. So I'll be hoping and looking for,
I think I found it, you guys. Length of the contract year, including the number of non-student contact and professional development days.
Yes.
So I think we're okay, right? Length of the contract year. So that doesn't necessarily mean start date or end date.
No,
That would
it
be
just
when
means the number of days.
Yep. Length of the contract year, including the number of non-student contact and professional. Well, we have a lot of non-student contact days. Just saying. Yeah. So actually, help me think through this. Well, we still don't want, we can commit to, here's our first day of school and our last day of school. Here's our, we know teachers will come back on this day, but we need to negotiate, we need to bargain here for what are those number of days? And then how many of those days are professional development and non-student contact days, right? But I think we're still okay within the start and end dates.
Actually, what it does say in the version that I have, which might be old because it's just the first one I was able to dig up.
Yeah.
The number of contract days shall not exceed 180 days for returning teachers and 182 for teachers new to the school district. And the contract days for all schools shall include no more than 166 student contact days. And there shall be no more than 4 professional development days.
Shall be no more.
So it sets upper limits, but not specific numbers.
Yep. And we're good on everything except, wouldn't we have more than 4 professional? I guess it depends how we're defining professional development versus plan time, right? Because that's the whole idea behind a Friday a month. Right. So, okay. So I think we're okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would like to, if the authorization is to bargain the school year, I would like to talk about it here for sure. Yeah. And it's, we don't have, obviously we really hope that the board expands our bargaining topics. But if they don't, I think that we didn't bring a ton of issues this year and that we should agree.
So I think what I'll still do just to be safe is because it sounds like, well, maybe we start out with calendar and days and blah, blah, blah. On the 28th, I'll still recommend that we do a special session on April 10th next to the study session to officially approve the calendar, because we're still within board policy, but provided no one here is going to freak out, just put out to the community. First day of school is like the family calendar is pretty much a done deal, I think. So I think we can put that out. That's what I'm trying to say. Family calendar can go out. And I think we're pretty close on the other one, but let's talk about it on the 28th. That's not spring break, is it? No, that's the next week. Okay.
Yeah, we're not trying to be a cog in the machine. Yeah. Problem.
Yeah.
Whatever. Wrench or whatever.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like it's been super collaborative and lots of great input, but always good to have extra sets of eyes on it, especially as we're thinking about how do we use those Fridays and such. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm so tired, you guys. I'm like not even speaking like.
Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. I just want to check in with folks. Did you all want to reconvene on your own then on the March, I forget you said 24th, 26th date? Or you want to wait till April 11th? How do folks feel knowing we've kind of had some brief overview on the bargaining topics that have been brought forward so far?
I can't wait till the April 11th because I need the board to approve the calendar on the 10th. Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to do a session just on calendar? We could probably knock that out in less than an hour. Maybe we do an hour on the 28th or.
That sounds good to me. We save other issues for when we have Emily.
Okay. I suppose I was going to say we could do a subcommittee on calendar, but it probably just it's up to you guys. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to be there no matter what. You guys tell me what you want to do. I want to get that calendar out there and published.
Yeah. And if it's that pressing too, and I totally understand why it is, we could do a subcommittee and then just come into public and talk about what the subcommittee said on the 28th and make sure that we're being transparent and open bargaining, right? And then kind of reporting back the work that the subcommittee did, maybe reach consensus if that becomes part of what we have to do, if we agree on whatever. And then that will be a short session on the 28th, relatively, right? Hopefully will be good for members to be involved in the process, to have the opportunity, right, for educators in the district to watch the bargain, and then also for us to get you in time to meet your obligations with the board.
I'd say it's up to you guys, because like I said, I'm gonna be there anyway.
Holly and Jill, because again, like I cannot contribute very much to something like this.
They're gonna be sick of me.
So we're talking about a subcommittee before the 28th. So who would be on that committee? I guess it would just be one educator and I kind of feel like we can just do it
on the 28th.
I'd rather have the input from the high school and the elementary rather than Jill doing the subcommittee or me doing the subcommittee. I just feel like that includes everybody's voice better. And you said, I think we can do it fairly quickly.
Yeah. And that I'm totally cool with that. And then Polly and Jill and Melanie, what I would ask is if you guys can kind of help us think through, or help me think through, what is it that we want to be deciding around it? That's what I maybe would just need clarification on. And it's only because I'm so tired right now. And I just need to know, like, what are we going to decide on the 28th? Is it the length of the contract year? Is it when the PD days are, or is it the number of PD days? That's what I think need to identify.
So given the way the language is written right now, I don't know if we have to agree, because we agreed on an upper limit. I don't know if we want to agree on bringing that upper limit down based on the new calendar.
Okay.
That's something that we should have a discussion about. And then I think if there are going to be more than 4 PD days, that does need to be something that we agree to.
Okay. Got it. So it's okay. So it's if we want to change the limits or not, and then if we want to change the number of PD days, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm gonna write that down. Don't remember that.
I should probably actually have written that down in the notes, and I got distracted.
Perfect. Well, you all then will meet on March 28th to have a short session around calendar, hopefully solving all the world's problems around calendar aspects on that day. And then I will reconvene with you all on April 11th. I had a 4:00 start time. I think our calendars were kind of all over the place. Can we just confirm start and end times just for sake of my crazy calendar as well, just for that date?
Should be 4 to 7.
4 to 7. Okay.
Oh my God, that's like an hour later than right now, you guys. I'm gonna be on this.
We made a commitment the very first meeting to
I know.
type something up to share.
Oh,
I didn't do it. Anybody else jump on that one while we were talking? It's hard.
I can riff it right now if someone can type. Anyone want to type?
I'd have to open another window.
Okay, Jill cannot type.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like Holly might be typing. I'm not sure. Or Jackie or someone. On March 8th, the two teams met and discussed the work of the PTO subcommittee and agreed that we have to be careful about language. Everyone liked the removal of the 30 days and will bring that back up as part of the overall financial package later in negotiations. Additionally, the teams discussed, I'm drawing a blank. What else did we talk about?
Calendar.
Financial.
But there was something before that.
Financial.
Oh,
Holly
thank
did her
you.
presentation.
Holly, CFO Holly Harlan provided a financial update that gave us preliminary information And we all felt like it was too early to really know what dollars we have. Okay, don't type that, but something like that. We reminded ourselves that we agreed to talk about calendar and days, including PD days at the next session. Is that it?
Anything else? Is that a good capture what we talked about today, guys?
A good time was had by all.
Good time was had
Jill
by all.
Stansbury, not Jill. Sorry.
Okay, I got a little bit of that. Did somebody get more of it than I did typing, or should I just continue with mine?
We also did, we also identified that we wanted to talk about extra duty pay as part of compensation. I knew there was something else.
Okay, I'm not a fast typer, but I can get this together and send it out. Or send it. So do I send it to you guys? Who do I send it to?
You send it to us and I can send it out to our leadership group. You guys send it out to CCCEA. I can send it
we'll
to
send ours
board.
out. Okay, I'll send it to you. Thank you. Okay.
We had one more thing that was mentioned briefly about expanding the bargaining topics. And Jill said that she gave her presentation last month and that we're waiting on board approval.
Thank you, Melanie.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Board decision. Maybe we should say board decision.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, yes.
You guys are going to get me in
We're waiting
trouble.
on approval, but if this is going to more than just us.
And either way, Q committed to be collaborative because she needs lots of help.
All right, that sounds great.
Okay.
I'll do that and get that out in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Polly.
All right.
I'd like to discuss while we're all together.
What'd you say?
Oh, anything else we'd like to discuss while we're all together this afternoon, evening, whatever time it is? I know, Karen, Q, you're down for the count. I get that.
So done. I'm so tired.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I will see you all on April 11th from 4 to 7 p.m.